Dale Bowman and welcome to Get Published TV. This is the only dedicated show on the internet to help authors and aspiring authors to write, publish and market their own best-selling book in 8 minutes a day. Now in today's episode we're going to explore 3 different processes or ways in which you can actually start writing your book. Because the reason why so many people come into that thing called writer's block is that they don't have a plan. They don't actually know where they're going. So in a future episode, we're going to talk about how to actually develop a plan and a structure. But there's actually a process that goes before that, which is what I sometimes call, the brain dump, is getting the information out of your head and getting it in to a particular a format. So what we're going to look at is 3 different ways in order to do that. The first way in order to get your ideas out of your head is, of course, the classic notebook. And what you need to do is go out there and buy a notebook and actually just start writing down ideas, just writing down thoughts. It doesn't have to be structured, doesn't have to be pretty, but just start dumping them down and putting them on paper. Because we all have time, but it's just not sometimes blocks of time. We've got like little pockets. Maybe you arrive at work 10 minutes early, or maybe you probably don't arrive early, but you've got time on the bus or maybe on the train or in a taxi cab, and you've got ideas. So just make a note of them. Or maybe when you get home and after you've put the kids to sleep and you're having a glass of red wine or a cup of coffee, you can again just take a few minutes to write things down. But if you've got this on you at all times, just start putting down either stories or maybe it's sentences, just what I would call memory triggers. You don't need to write down the whole thing, but if you just write down, like for me, there's a little story that I tell called the funnel story. Maybe one day in a future episode I'll talk about the funnel story and how it actually works. But for me, if I just say to myself, the funnel story, that's a whole 5-minute conversation that I could have, and it probably would turn into maybe 5 or 10 pages in my book by just triggering those particular words. So that's what you do. So you write down the funnel story, or you write down anything else. It may be a childhood memory, it might be a little example, it might be whatever, and you just write down all your thoughts and idea. Forget about the order, forget about the structure, don't make it look neat or pretty, just get the ideas out of your head and on paper. Now at the beginning, it's probably going to start quite slow, but what will happen is once it starts picking up, they'll come very fast and very quick, and then you'll just be writing, and then what will happen is eventually after you're empty or on the way to being empty, you'll start to actually slow down again, and that may be a signal that you've got out the majority of information, or it could be a short-term lull, and then you'll find the ideas pick up again, and again you'll come up with another 20 or 30 different points. But start actually doing that, and I'd probably recommend that for at least 1 month you just write down points. You don't actually write your book, you just write down points and ideas. Because what a lot of people do is they said, okay, I'm going to start to write my book now, and they don't really have any points there, and they maybe get 1 or they maybe get 2, but then they get stuck because they don't know what to kind of write next. But if you've got like, in a notebook, you've got like, 10 or 20 pages of different dot points or different kind of bubbles of ideas. Some of you would maybe prefer to do it in a mind map form, where you have your topic area there and all of the offshoots of that in different bubbles around the side. Then it makes it so much easier to write. And then when you feel yourself maybe slowing down on a particular point, or maybe the ideas aren't flowing, maybe it's not quite coming together, then just leave it there and pick another bubble or pick another point and start writing again on that, because you never ever have writer's block in every single area all at the same time. What you'll find is you may have a writer's block on one particular topic or one particular idea, but if you get stuck, then forget it. Come back to it later on, go on to something else, and then again that flow will start to come back. And then always it happens when you revisit that original point after you've maybe ignored it for a few days or even a few weeks, bang, you have a breakthrough and you start writing much quicker and faster. So that's the first tip. Having a notebook with you, carrying it with you everywhere you go and writing down different ideas that pop into your head. The second strategy is what I call the post-it note, post-it stamp or post-it note strategy. And all you do, I'm pretty sure, someone said to me, do you have post-it notes in Australia? The answer is yes. I think these have become a worldwide phenomena, these post-it stamps. They're everywhere. Simply, it's just a little bit of paper with a bit of sticky on the back, and you just have this pad with you, and you just write down those, words. As I said before, the funnel story. So I'm writing that down now, and either what I could do is, if I like, is just stick it in my book like that, and I just fill up my book with a whole lot of these, because why? This is portable. And then when I get home, what I can actually do is I can take all the post-it notes out of my book, and I can start to actually stick them up on a board. And I've got dozens of these things, and what I can then start to do is I can then start putting them into chapters. So you can even start breaking it up like this with different chapters. Here's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and you can actually start playing around with these. So chapter 1 starting to take shape, and then you can go to chapter 2 and start filling that out. And all these ideas were just random thoughts in no particular order, but now you're actually starting to get structure. Now you can actually start to write much easier. And if you feel like an idea, after you've got them all out there, then you may feel, this one here actually belongs in chapter 4 as opposed to chapter 1, and you can start to play around. Because what you might find is one particular chapter has maybe 12 or 13 post-its, and another one has only got 1. And so therefore it's a bit lonely. There's maybe not enough depth or substance to that particular idea. So therefore you can chop and change. And I find that that's a really cool way to go, is to write it on post-it notes, stick it in a book, because you can take that anywhere, and then take those post-it notes out of your book and stick them up onto a wall. Maybe you can't draw on your wall, so maybe it's a whiteboard, or you can do it on just sheets of paper that you stick up on the wall. There's a couple of different ways, but buying a whiteboard from any type of office store isn't very expensive. I think this one was around about 70 or 80 bucks. Not very expensive, but they can be really valuable for you to just get your ideas out there and on paper. Again, this works for writing non-fiction, and also the same ideas works for writing fiction as well. Same principles apply. Now, that's one particular, that's another particular method. In that same vein, here we've got another theory, which is the 3x5 cards. So this is similar to the post-it notes, where you just basically write down. Maybe here you don't just write down a trigger, but maybe even you can write down sub-points, because you've got some more space to actually work with here. You can even draw pictures, or you can do examples. The only negative with this is you can't actually stick them into your book, but what you can do is just put an elastic band around them and carry them in your pocket. But then the good thing about this, as opposed to just a book, is that you can then start to order them and put them into an actual order. And then once you've got your order, then you can number them. And then when you're actually sitting down to actually write your book, you just think, well, where am I going to start with today? And you go through and go, oh, okay, I'll start with number 7, or I'll start with number 12. And you start writing about that until all of those topic areas have been fleshed out. So that is the second one. And the third strategy, I think I've been talking now for close to 8 minutes. So rather than trying to go through this third idea and not really do it justice, I'm actually going to cover it again. On tomorrow's episode. All right. So we've covered number 1, which is the notebook method, if we call it that. Number 2 is the post-it stamp method, and you've got to come back for tomorrow, which is number 3 of some ideas and strategies to get the ideas out of your head, and then give yourself a bit of a plan to work with to make your writing so much better. This is Dale Beaumont from Get Published TV. Thanks for watching. See you again next time.